So, what is my worst experience as a doctor? There's quite a few, but I would say my worst experience as a doctor was assisting in the delivery of a stillbirth baby. This was many years ago. I was a trainee. I was doing what we call the obstetrics and gynecology rotation, otherwise known as obs and gynae. So, this was Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve in the obs and gynae ward, where there's lots of deliveries. Lots of women coming in with other problems as well, who are obviously pregnant. You've got different floors, so you've got, women on one floor, another set of women on another top floor, and then you've got the midwives who are in charge of each pregnant woman, on each floor. So I think Christmas Eve, as you know, we're all in the mood for Christmas. Everyone is jovial, everyone is in a good mood. And what happens usually when women are on the ward is either because they're close to delivery or because there might be a problem for which they're being monitored. So usually when they're being monitored, they have this machine called a CTG or cardiotachograph. And what this CTG does is monitor the movement of the baby, monitors the heart rate, of the baby as well. And it gives an idea of how the baby is doing within the womb. So if there is any abnormality in the tracing, that shows up in the graph, which is the CTG. I cannot remember the exact details, but I think this particular pregnant lady, she had the CTG attached, and I think maybe she temporarily removed the attachments without letting the midwife know and had to use the toilet or for whatever reason. I cannot remember the exact scenario, whether what happened was when she reattached the CTG or someone reattached the CTG, they found that there was abnormalities in the graph in terms of maybe there wasn't that much movement. So usually if there's not that much movement or there is too much movement, it usually signifies that the baby is in distress, and that usually means that this has to be an emergency delivery, which is usually an emergency cesarean section. So what happens is, bang, within, once that was highlighted, within seconds before you know it, the woman's in the theatre. Her husband is obviously alerted, and it's me and one of the senior registrars for the obs and gynae. So obviously we have a consultant who's on call, so we notify the consultant who's on call. Usually it takes about 20 minutes for the consultants to arrive to the site. So the woman is wheeled into the theatre, she has to quickly sign the consent form for the theatre to happen. Within I think between 3 to 7 minutes, the baby is out. So usually emergency cesarean sections, what they call emergency, baby has to be out within that period of time, within that 3 to 7, window. Unfortunately, as the baby was being delivered, there was no sign of life. We're talking about 39 weeks, if I can remember, 39 weeks. There was no breathing, there was no pulse, there was no crying. So what usually happens in this case is the baby quickly goes into the resus. We usually, by the corner, we usually have a resus where, there's CPR, there's ventilation, oxygen, and all this process is going on. We try to revive the baby, and unfortunately, this was a stillbirth, and you could hear a pin drop on that particular occasion, Christmas Eve. Everyone was silent, nobody said a word. We were all like, how is this even possible? How could this have happened? This has not happened in many, many years. And this is Christmas Eve as well, It was a devastating time, but the parents were amazing. Obviously, stillbirth baby, you cannot imagine what the parents will be going through. But when I mean amazing in the sense that in the midst of the grief, they found time to thank the staff, because they knew that this was nothing to do with the staff. We didn't make any errors. We took the appropriate steps. It was just one of those unfortunate occasions, of a stillbirth baby. And it does happen in real life, though not very often, but stillbirth can happen at any stage, whether it's 24 weeks plus onwards. It just happened at the point of delivery. Obviously there was inquest, as you would do with any stillbirth. There's a post-mortem held. I cannot remember, but I don't think any probable cause was found as to the reason for the stillbirth. Usually the parents can choose to name the child, have a small box where they can keep mementos as well to help remember the child. and they can choose whether they want to, cremate or bury the child as well. So it is one of my worst experiences as a doctor. I do try not to remember it. It's locked somewhere in the facet of my mind, because as a doctor, you have to not be too attached to these things, and you have to move on to the next thing. Another day is a new day. So that is one of my worst experiences as a doctor.